Hi, welcome back to my YouTube channel. I am Jess, and I have the pleasure today is talking with Cassie, who is do you consider yourself a rancher or
Yeah.
a rancher? Awesome. So can you briefly introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your ranch?
Yeah. So my name's Cassie Allen. Me and my husband cattle ranch out here in Eastern Oregon in the USA. I feel like I need to say that because you live in Japan, right?
Yeah.
That's crazy. I was like, no wonder we're having a hard time trying to coordinate a good time with the time zone. I personally grew up in a farming community. I didn't grow up around ranching. I married my husband, obviously, and he grew up farming and ranching, but his heart was in the cattle. And so I kind of married him thinking I knew a thing or two about cattle because I'm in the agriculture community, right? So I grew up around farming. We did in my family, we were alfalfa farmers. And so I thought I did. And then I actually married into it. And I'm like, wow, I know nothing. I was just thinking how you think because farmers and ranchers were in the same world, right? Or the same community, that the day-to-day would be the same. But from my experience, it's really different. And so I've had to learn a lot since marrying him, and I continue to learn a lot.
Are you guys considered regenerative?
I mean, in my opinion, all ranchers are regenerative at some point. I think there's different kinds that are more regenerative. I guess technically speaking, we're not grass finished. That being said, our cattle and all cattle are raised in the pasture. Majority of their life, they eat grass and hay mostly. They are finished with grain and corn.
So how long have you been doing this for now?
My husband started when he was a senior in high school. His dad was a potato farmer. His grandpa kind of was in the cattle industry. So he kind of knew cattle, and he knew that was kind of more of his passion. Later on when he got older, we got married about 6.5 years ago. So I personally have been doing it for about 6.5 years.
So what's a typical day look like for you then?
Gosh, it just depends on the year. Every season of ranching is very different. Whether it's calving season or breeding season or haying season. We just got done with our fall work. So we give them all of their vaccinations. And because this time of the year, they're really susceptible to respiratory disease because of the fluctuation of the temperatures. We're more into the cold weather now, but especially during fall, it could be 80 degrees and then drop down to 30, and that's hard for them. So anyways, they need to get shots for that so that they will be able to withstand that, or else they can get pneumonia and stuff. We've been building our cell barn.
Have you guys been able to stay successful? Have you hit any rough patches? How is it just mentally, physically?
Yeah, I mean, we are very lucky and so thankful that we are able to be in a good position, but that's definitely not the case for a lot of ranchers and farmers in the whole US. More specifically, what I know, the West and the Midwest, Texas, there's a lot of struggle right now. I mean, as you can imagine, just everywhere, things are getting so expensive, and imagine how much it is to fill up your car. And then we have diesel tractors. Diesel's a whole $1 more than gas right now, and we have to fill these huge diesel tractors. Hay prices are insane. Just everything, inflation's just crazy right now. So to try to stay afloat is it's pretty hard. Here in the West, we're really struggling with drought. So the past couple of years, we haven't been receiving a lot of rainfall and a lot of snowpack up in our mountains. And that's everywhere in the West, everywhere in the Midwest, or not everywhere, I shouldn't say everywhere, but a lot of places. I was just reading somewhere that they're estimating 2023 to have the biggest beef production drop since 1979, I think, which is kind of crazy because that's been a while, but we need the moisture to grow our crops. I know some people around here that weren't able to even plant because they're just thinking there's no reason to if we're not going to receive enough moisture for that crop to grow. Our cattle graze during the summer. In order for us to receive that grass, they they need rain and they need moisture, and we just haven't had it. And so a lot of these ranchers aren't able to feed their cattle, and in return aren't able to stay afloat. You can't just give them hay all year long. That's not that doesn't financially make sense, and you just don't have enough. So yeah, drought has been a big issue, especially for us in the West. I don't know, there's quite a bit in our industry. Another thing that's kind of a big talk in our industry, but not a lot of people are hearing us, like the meat packing monopoly. A lot of people that are in our industry know what I'm talking about, but for those of you that don't, when we're done and the cattle are fat and ready to get processed, the people that actually process it, package it, and send it to Walmart and Whole Foods and those type of places, these meat packing plants, there's only 4 of them, like 4 big ones, I should say. 2 of them are in the US and 2 of them are actually in Brazil. And because we don't have a lot of competition, there's only 4 of them and we can't compete with that. They are taking all control and taking most of the profits. I think I read somewhere that they're taking like $1,200 to $2,000 per head per steer. That's all of our profit as ranchers. That's another issue. I know they're trying to combat that, but it's just, the competition's hard. It's hard to fight that, honestly.
So I don't know much about the ranching community. Are you guys pretty close knit and tight and supportive of each other, or is it kind of every man for himself in the community?
No, I think we are close knit and tight. I mean, we're just, I don't want to say it for myself because I've only been doing this for 6 years, but like they're just like the salt of the earth type of people that love the simplicity of life, right? They don't care about the worldly things. They care about their land. They love their land. They love their animals. And that's what I want people to know is like, that's why we keep going. It's because we love our heritage. We love our land. And that's what makes us want to keep going. Even though it's incredibly hard, we want to be able to pass it on to the next generation. It's just being harder and harder to stay afloat so that you can.
Is there anything that your community is doing, any actionable steps that you're taking legislatively or anything like that to resolve some of the issues you're experiencing? Is there anything you can do, or are you guys kind of just David fighting Goliath at this point?
Yeah, maybe there is that I don't know of, but like I know we're trying to fight the meatpacking monopoly. There's people that are working hard. I don't know a whole lot about that, but I know there is some. We have been trying to say that for a while now. There's more and more. That's what I'm loving about social media is that there's more and more people that are trying to combat it. We're trying to get our voice out there. Like, we love our animals. We're not these mean people that it doesn't make sense. If we didn't love animals and we didn't love what we did, like, we wouldn't be successful. We wouldn't have a business. It wouldn't financially make sense, right? Happy cows will make us profitable. If we neglect them, if we hate them, if we are animal abusers, that wouldn't make sense. That wouldn't make us financially stable. So that's something else that I would want people to get.
Yeah, you do bring up an interesting point. Do you feel that maybe the younger generation of ranchers are starting to get louder because the people who are against ranching and against eating meat and things like that seem to be shouting the loudest and seem to be a very large voice? Is it time to get in the fight and start standing in their way?
Yeah, that's why I'm here, right? I like, even just doing this, I was like, I really don't want to, I don't feel like I'm worthy because I was married into this. Like, I don't feel like I have a voice. I feel like I can't do that. But like, we need to, you know what I mean? Like, or else they will be louder. And if we don't stand up and we say, no, we love what we do, we love our animals, we love our land, then they're just going to overtake us. But yeah, I don't know if it's like this big trend going on or what the deal is. I just keep hearing, if you eat meat, then you are contributing to climate change. It's not true. We keep saying it over and over again. As meat producers, we only contribute 2.6% to greenhouse gases in our environment. 2.6%. Why do we keep getting blamed for it? when it's only 2.6%. And we keep saying this, but no one seems to care because it's just a trendy thing to not eat meat.
And people don't realize how important you guys are to the whole nation, how much is put on your shoulders, and no one's grateful. It seems like such a small amount of people in America actually understand how much work you guys do for the whole entire nation. And
I mean, it's not just that. I just like, what was it, like 1.5 or 2% of the population feed the whole world, or is it the whole nation, or the U.S.? I think it might be the U.S. Anyways, 1.5%. That is a very small percentage that we're supposed to feed everybody, and we're just getting heat after heat. And it's like, what are we like? What's the deal here?
How are your kids involved in this life and in this world? Do you want them to take over the family business one day?
Yeah. So I don't think there's a better way to raise your kids, in my opinion, than on a ranch and on a farm. That's kind of how I was raised, not on a ranch, but on a farm. And yeah, I mean, I love it. For instance, I have my oldest is 5. He just turned 5 like 3 days ago. So they're still really young and they're developing their personalities. And it's fun to hear them talk like, oh, one day when I'm like, Dad, and I have cows, and that's how we can buy diapers for baby sister. Like, he's starting to get it. We would love to have my son take over. And of course the girls can be involved as well. But ultimately it's their choice. They can do what they want.
Do you feel like the nation is going in the right direction for them to be able to take over this business, or do you worry at all about how much negative press is being surrounded by the meat industry?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I do worry about it. I do worry where this world is going in general. But yeah, like with the drought and with just the whole world looking at meat production as if we're evil, I do worry about that. That's why we try so hard. Like, me and my husband, we're hustling so hard, all while trying to have babies and raise children. We try so hard so we can build a better future and build a better opportunity for them to be able to withstand all the trials, and that they can have it for their children. That's what all ranchers want. That's why we work so hard, is so that we can pass it down to the next generation. And that's what's so heartbreaking, is that some of these families they can't pass it down to the next generation. So they work harder and harder and harder until they're old. I mean, I think it's the average age of a farmer and rancher is like 60. That's the average age. And that's old. And it's because they're working so hard to build their future, and so that they can pass it on to the next generation, and they can't, and it's getting harder and harder to stay afloat so that they're able to.
It seems like thankless work. Seems really tough. I really appreciate, I hope you know that there are people out there who understand and appreciate and are trying to help get your story out and help share the truth about what's going on and wake people up. I feel like we need to be on your guys' side and have your backs, not be vilifying you guys for no reason.
Yeah, we're just trying to live our life and just say like, no, actually, we love what we do. We're not here to just make money. If that was the case, then this would be the bad business to be running, if we're doing it for the money.
I do think you bring up a good point too, because I always hear that people say, if you raise meat or if you raise cows to just become meat, you don't love them. You're just torturing them. How do you respond to people who throw those arrows at you?
So I'm a Christian. I belong to the Church of Jesus Christ Latter-day Saints, and I believe that like our God placed these animals on this earth for a reason, and that's to feed his children. There's a reason why it's full of nutrients. It's nutrient dense, and that's for a reason. They're put on our earth to help sustain our environment. That's the whole purpose, and I truly believe that. And as long as I believe that, then that's all I need. I don't need the world's input. I don't need their voice. That's what I believe.
What's your goal for your ranch?
My dream is to eventually be able to sell some of our meat off of our ranch and then straight to your guys' doorstep. That's all something I've always wanted to do, something to be able to connect the rancher with the consumer. And I think that would be like a fun way for me to connect with other people and, educate them like I am now.
Do you have any advice for people who are trying to get into this industry?
It is hard. It's hard to get into ranching full time, especially nowadays. You don't necessarily have to do the cow-calf operation. You can get into it in different ways in ranching. ranching. You could even just be hobby farm or hobby ranchers like that. If you want to connect with our ancestors and you love this lifestyle, like that's a good way too. Often get this question and like how do I get started? And I think ultimately, like being able to start off and have a second source of income to be able to pay for it, and then slowly being able to go full time once you're able to generate enough income for your family and the business. That's my recommendation.
So thank you again for joining me, and it was so nice to meet you and hear a little bit more about your story. And I hope that we can change a few people's minds about not vilify meat.
Yeah.
Have a good night.
You too.